So now drill 4, this person takes action again. So Michael's gonna open and close my gi as we've been doing the whole time, right? Now I'm gonna grab this is for me to do right now. So instead of letting him get up, set up whatever he wants to start attacking, like in drills 1 and 3, I wanna grab his gi with the pistol grip with the same side arm, right? So my opposite side arm can be the helper hand as I pull it up and feed it. So now I have this pistol grip. Now my other hand goes underneath and eats up all this space. There's a little bit of space. So I want to send my hand underneath and eat up all that space. You see the little triangle of space in here, right? Well, I want to eat all that up. He can feel the pressure on his wrist. Now that I do this, I want to pop our hands up and kind of diagonal away from us. That's the weakest point of his grip, is that direction. Every other direction he's got pretty well. He's got lots of spring in the gi, and he's got grip strength. But where his fingers open like that is where he's weakest. So as I grip here and I pop straight up, you can see his grip already weakening and he can't hold it. Even with the strongest grips, if I do this and I jackhammer, almost every time I can break this grip. Very rarely do I have somebody who gives me a hard time with that. Now that I'm here, I want to transfer the gi. But I don't want to, the common mistake I see is people come here, path of least resistance, but that's not what we want. I need to stay on this side of his arm, so once I pop up, I hand the gi off like this, okay? However you want. I tend to tell people to remember, grab your own wrist and slide down it. That might not be the ultimate move that you do, but that's a good way to remember. Now that I'm here, I want to punch his arm into his pocket down here. The goal here is for my arm to be straight. If there's any bend to my arm, he capitalizes on that by bringing his arm across. The only way I can keep it, and with relative ease, is by stiff arming. Now, can you bring your elbow across? Now, along with that, I'm using my legs to pull it in, right? So can you bring your arm back? I am very powerful in this position. If my elbow bends the slightest, he's gonna bring his elbow back and I can't hold it. I've gotta keep it stiff armed. And as far down as possible. It's not here, it's here. All the way down in his pocket is why I say that. Now that I've brought him in with my legs, I can see his back patch. I'm gonna grab some material like his ribs or some gi material and anchor down. I wanna point out that I have a pretty good bend in my arm here. Oftentimes people are too extended and I see this. This is not gonna give me the right leverage I need to do the stuff I wanna do, okay? So I wanna be down here, his shoulder is squarely in my chest. I have his lat and I'm pulling and I've got a bend in my arm. And I still have this stiff arm keeping him away. Now the next part I want to do is take my back leg and put it on the mats and start to shrimp away. As I'm doing that, I'm creating space from our hips, but I'm keeping his shoulders nice and tight to me. Another thing I can do is as I'm shrimping out, I can grab for gi material. Raise your arm up for me, Mike. I want to grab for his collar and pull it like this. My old instructor used to call this magic collar. I like the sound of that. It really does help a lot. It creates a lot more opportunities. So I'm gonna grab either material, or if I can reach the entire collar and pull it this way, it's gonna give me better leverage. Now, as I'm keeping his shoulders tight to me and I'm creating space with my hips, you see that my leg starts to naturally fall between his, as if I'm getting caught in half guard. But what it really turns into is my first hook. Let's just bend over again, Mike. So as I'm shrimping out, I topple him over, and that becomes hook number 1. Then I get hook number 2. Then I start to set up my rear naked choke. I come in nice and tight. I exaggerate my movement by grabbing my bicep, shooting my arm out straight, grabbing my bicep, and doing this karate chop motion back here. I squeeze and Michael taps, and we reset. Okay? So now, once we reset, I do the exact same movement. Rear naked choke position. I want to make sure the pit of my elbow is at his chin. If I'm any shallower than that, I'm just cranking on his trachea and it's dirty. So I want to get nice and deep, come back here and touch my own shoulder. I want to reach from my bicep, exaggerating this motion. Reach from my bicep. He's going to take his opposite hand and grab my wrist and trapping it. Then he takes his free hand and punches up through the hoop like Superman and does this bite right here. I call it a shark bite, where it looks like this is kind of a shark mouth, and he bites down on it. Now that we're here, he takes the other hand again, and he starts pulling away at my arm to give himself a little bit of time, and he tucks his chin in. Okay? The purpose of all this is that I want him, as the person doing the choking, I want him down on my choke arm. So as an example, this would not be my choke arm. It's got to be the one on bottom, but he's starting to address that, okay? So now that we're here, he can do a couple of things. He can either roll himself to the other side, or the thing that I really found that I like better is he's going to start punching his hands up through this hole. So as he starts creating this bite and pulling back here, he can use this hand to pull down at this arm, at the wrist here, and then he can start to send this hand up and through. So he doesn't have to change sides. This is the way I escape this most of the time. Again, the alternative is to keep everything where it was and he just rolls over to the other side. Go ahead, can you do that? But I find that a lot harder than this. So he's created the space, he uses this hand, pulls down, braces what he has. Yeah, now he sends his hand up through, another Superman punch, another shark bite. Now, he wants to turn and face up, touching his head to the mat. Touch his head to the mat and face up. Now, I don't have anything but possible mount here. But he's got the upper hand here still because his hands are free. He doesn't need them for anything, and now he can address my legs, and he stiffens his arms, and he kind of pivots his hips, and he walks away. As he's walking his legs away, he's driving his ribs into my chest. Now pause right here. I want you to notice that Mike is getting ready to do this the absolute correct way. His hand is here, ready to go underneath my leg. What I see all too often is this arm going over, and this is going to allow me to recover guard. When you're doing this, you've got to hug the legs, you've got to scoop the leg. You don't have to hug, but you definitely have to scoop with this arm, so I can't recover guard. Now he drives forward, brings his knees to my side, and he's got this kind of deep side control that I'm facing the opposite direction. So now that I'm here, I get flat to my back, and we get to regular side control. This elbow can come down in between us, it doesn't matter really, he can keep it trapped. But what he's gonna do is he's gonna send his shin across my belly, not for neon belly points, but for the sake of mounting. One of my few things I can do is I can take this hand and I can try to stop his knee. So stay tight to me here. I can try to stop his knee. So without doing anything, can you mount right now? I'm keeping his leg away pretty actively, pretty easily. But what he wants to do is free his hands and then spider walk. And he wants to spider walk like out and then in a big semicircle right here. So he walks out to get rid of my spring, then he goes up and he wraps my arm around me. So he walks out and up. Now make sure, Mike, that when you're doing this, that you don't go too low. You want to stay close to my elbow. If you go out by my wrist, go ahead, do it again, then I can dive my elbow in. So he wants to be at my elbow, walking out, and then around, like that. Cool. Now he just continues his knee down to the mat, and he pivots and goes to mount. Okay? So then he sits up for the drill, and he starts to set up the X choke. Sends his hand, helper hand, choke hand. I do the exact same thing, it's just UPA as we did in drill 1. I grab deep, spin, grab some gi material, trap his foot, bridge, roll over. And so now we've restarted, but he's in the position I was in for drill 4. He grabs pistol grip with the same side, goes under, pops the grip, and so on.